Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer 3023-4-600 4-inch double-acting spring hinge, half surface, steel base, primed for paint. This is a double-acting spring hinge. It is very much similar to the most well-known product probably by Bommer, their typical double-acting spring hinge. This one has just a little twist to it in the sense that it's a half surface. So what that means is one leaf is going to mount to the jamb normally, as a normal hinge leaf would. The other leaf is going to mount to the face of the door. You've got terms like half surface, such as this, and half mortise, such as other types of hinges. When you've got that operative word, mortise or surface, it always applies to the door. So if you're dealing with a half surface, that means that there is a leaf surface mounted to the door, because the door is the important factor to deal with. Okay, so in a top-down perspective, this is what it will look like when your door occupies the space between the two barrels. Okay? It's quite frankly that simple. Why people might use a half surface could be maybe they want to through bolt it through the door, or maybe there's damage to the door where they can't attach it to the edge. Maybe there's I can't think of a reason for a new installation to have a half surface. Generally, I see a half surface hinge used when you've got some damage to a door and you can no longer attach something to the edge. That's generally where I see this. So there is a link to the template below this video, which shows everything important dimensionally about the hinge. So when they say 4-inch, it's really not as much a reference, and if you look at the template now, it's really not so much a reference as to any specific dimension on the hinge. You know, knowing that the under the cap to the bottom of the bottom cap is 4-inch, that's really not why it's 4-inch or why it's called 4-inch. 4-inch is a directly related value to how thick of a door this hinge is made to handle. 4-inch equals a door that's between 7/8 and 1.25 inches thick. If your door is thinner or thicker, this is not the right hinge. You'd want to change it to a 3023-3, 3-inch, which would be 3/4 inch thick kind of material. 3023-5, which would be for like 1.5 inches, or 3023-6, which would get you out to 1.75 inches. That's really the important part on this sort of a situation. So dissecting the part number, 3023 means it's a double-acting spring hinge, half surface. One leaf to the face of the door, the other leaf to the jamb normally. Just surface mounted on the jamb as well. From what I can see here, the swag on the hinge leaves is such that you could go with either leaf being the jamb portion and either leaf being the frame portion, or the door portion, pardon me. The -4, we talked about that, 7/8 to 1.25 inch thick doors. 600 means prime coat. This is just a finish that's intended to be painted. Okay, it's going to include screws and a complementary finish, or in this case, just like a chrome or a zinc coated screw. For paint, obviously, they're expecting that you're going to paint it, so they're not going to be too concerned with the color of the screws. There is a guide below this video to how many hinges you use based on the size and weight of the door. If you've got a door that's up to about 60 pounds, 2 spring hinges are generally what is going to work for you. If you get up to 75 pounds, go with 3 spring hinges. 2 hinges for doors 2 foot 4 wide, 3 hinges for doors up to 3 foot wide. There is a link below this video to the installation instructions. And those instructions, I want to call your attention to the bottom 2/3 of that, where it shows 2 hinges at the top. That's important. All the work, the majority of the work done on a hinge holding a door and operating the door through its cycle is done at the top of the door. The weight is, up there. All the The weight's not up there. The weight's down here, but it's pulling on that the top hinge, and that's why they want two up at the top. Okay. The top third is, shows a typical non-half surface hinge, but there you go. Technical specifications, another link to that. Waiting for that PDF to fire up here. I want to talk about, while that PDF is coming up, I want to talk about setting the tension on this. You're going to get a tension rod with your hinge or hinges. You're going to get a tension pin. This order for this client has one hinge on it. That means you need 2 pins. Okay? I'll show you that now. These are tension collars. They go upwards towards the top of the door. The collars with the holes in them. You insert a tension rod into one of those holes. You'll see that there's an arrow that's clockwise from my perspective, and you rotate that tension collar clockwise or in the direction of the arrow. You can do it like this too, just follow the arrow, okay? Into one of these new holes that you reveal, you insert a tension pin right there. And when you release it, the shoulder of the pin will hold against the flange of the other leaf, okay? And that's how you set the tension. You obviously have to do it on both sides. The direction of tension setting is the same for both barrels, okay? And that's how you go about doing this. Now, the link to, if you have any questions on setting tension, feel free to reach out to us. It is also covered in the link called Technical Specifications, which is open here on my computer now. And basically what it is instructions as to how we'll go, is in terms of how to go about attaching this. So step 1 is remove the spring tension from each barrel by, okay, so remove the spring tension. Basically put your rod in, crank it a little bit, and if the pins are already set on the hinge, remove them and put them in a safe place, don't lose them. Locate the hinges as shown in figure 1. That's the bottom left-hand corner of that page, and it refers to the 2 hinges at the top. That's what they want you to do. It's very important, step 3, that you align the center line of the door and the center line of the frame. You've got to have the center line of the frame and the center line of the door correct, so that when you attach your hinge to the frame, you're also achieving a door that's going to be hung correctly in the frame. It needs to be plumb, it needs to be square in the frame, okay? There's capital letters here. For best adjustment of double doors, mount hinges on one door with tension adjustment up and down on the opposite side as shown in figure 1. Shims may be necessary under the edges of the frame flanges for door alignment. What they're saying there is, if you've got a pair of doors and your tension collar is up on one door, that means that your leaf will be on one face. If you were to use the same leaf on the other door, you'd have it on the wrong side of the door. So what they're saying is, on that other door, just flip it over. That's what they're saying. Spring tensioning instructions are not do not exceed 5 holes of tension. You're going to set too much energy on the spring. You could snap it as the door opens. Moving on, place the door in the closed position, wedge the door up from the floor, get the hinges set, get the door in place and shim it in place so it can't move. Okay, and then at that point, once you know that you've got a margin on the jambs and at the header, you can attach that surface leaf to the door. Once you've got that, you leave your shims there, you set your tension while you're shimmed in place. Once you're in good shape, remove your shims and test your operation. Bommer, is just synonymous with the name double-acting spring hinges. Really good quality product, phenomenally knowledgeable staff that works there. Okay. Last thing I'd like to show you is their Bommer logo. You might be able to see it. It says "Made in USA" right above the logo. A fact that Bommer is quite proud of, as am I, to represent them. If you have any questions on the Bommer, 3023-4-600 double acting half surface spring hinge in a prime coat finish or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.